Norma Drummond.
Tara Franco.
Can I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, just a couple order of business here. Our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, April 9th. We do have a set of minutes from February 12th to approve. Do I have a motion to approve as amended, as was circulated?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. For item number 2, which is the appeal related to Homeland Towers, as some of you know, we do have a request from the applicant to adjourn it. We are going to open that public hearing. We are still going to offer up for comment tonight, but then we will, hopefully briefly open it and then adjourn it to the, we'll, at the pleasure of the board, adjourn it to the next meeting. For purpose of folks who have not been here before, we do start with decisions. These are applications we've already reviewed, we've already conducted public hearing on, and the board is just at this point ready to make a decision. We then go to public hearings. We start with existing or opened public hearings, then go to new public hearings, and then finally, these are opportunities obviously for public input, and we welcome your input because there are times when you know these sites better than we do. And then finally, we do have 3 reviews on our agenda tonight. Those will not have public comment, but because this, in some cases, is the first time the board is actually seeing these applications. So, moving right on. Decision number 1, Appeal 3613 Schneider, John Schneider, 14 Pierce Hour Road, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a variance to be allowed to keep a 960 square foot fabric garage to be relocated so that it meets the required setbacks pursuant to section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance. Now, we have not had any opportunity to discuss, but based on the comments that we heard from the board as we conducted the public hearing, our clerk and our attorney have pulled together a resolution. I invite you to read it quickly to yourself, and then if you agree, if somebody wants to offer the motion. Otherwise, if you want to go in another direction.
No, I can't read it. My voice is a little shot.
Oh.
I can read it. No problem.
Okay.
You want
Go ahead.
Okay. This is appeal number 3613. Applicant is John Schneider. The resolution is offered by zoning board member Aziz Ahsan, whereas the applicant has applied to the zoning board for a variance to be allowed to keep a 960 square foot fabric garage, which will be relocated so that it meets the required setbacks pursuant to section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance. Whereas this action is a type 2 action under seeker and no further compliance is required, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Duchess News, the official newspaper of the town, on January 3rd, 2013, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on January 8th, 2013, which was then adjourned to February 12th, 2013, and whereas this is an application by John Schneider, 14 Pierce Arrow Road, Hopewell Junction, who is requesting a variance to be allowed to keep his existing 960 square foot garage, fabric garage, if he relocates it so that it is in conformance with the required setbacks pursuant to section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance. According to the applicant's application, his property consists of 1.25 acres improved by a 1-story frame dwelling with an existing shed and 2 canvas structures. The applicant applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for an 8-foot sideline variance for the structure on February 27, 2012, and that appeal was denied by this board on June 6, 2012. Mr. Schneider has stated that he will move the structure so that it meets the required setback if he is allowed by this board to keep the structure on his property. The zoning ordinance section 194-107C requires a garage be no larger than 750 square feet. The applicant, Mr. Schneider, explained to the board during the public hearing for his previous appeal that he had erected the canvas structures in question, anchoring it to the ground with concrete, and the structure had a floor of pieces of concrete sidewalk removed from a sidewalk replacement project in another town. Mr. Schneider explained that he needed a structure to house his boats, trailers, and lawnmowers. When this was brought to the 2013 public hearing, Mr. Schneider responded that the broken up concrete floor is in the other fabric structure that is on his property. Photographs obtained by town officials showed a poured concrete floor and welding equipment setup. Mr. Schneider explained that he is housing his welding equipment in the structure and is presently renting another shop in Yonkers. The applicant did acknowledge that his business is registered at this address, which was confirmed through a Dun and Bradstreet listing. He added that he will build a garage somewhere else and move all of his equipment, but at this time he needs to keep it in the existing garage. The applicant explained that one piece of equipment seen in the photographs is a generator which can power the equipment seen in the structure. In addition to the welding equipment also seen in the photograph is at least one face protection mask. The board has carefully considered the applicant's testimony and the testimony offered by him to be allowed to keep the 960 square foot fabric structure and for the use of the structure. Having considered all of the foregoing and the well-known factors under New York State Town Law Section 267-B for reviewing and granting area variances, this board feels compelled to deny the 2 area variances sought herein for the following reasons, among others. Number 1, the applicant's desired use and housing of his welding equipment, generators, etc. is not an allowed use in an R1 zone, but rather it is a permitted use in an industrial zone. Number 2, the garage size variance is substantial. The existing fabric garage is 960 square foot and the zoning ordinance only allows 750 square feet. The structure is at 210 square feet larger than what it is allowed. It should be noted that the applicant has one other wood shed and one other canvas structure on this property, which should negate the need of his additional structure to be in the excess of the 750 square foot allowed by the code. Number 3, the granting of the variance will produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and it will be a detriment to nearby properties. Other properties in the neighborhood have to adhere to the allowed use in the zoning ordinance. The applicant should be held to the same requirement as his neighbors. Additionally, access to the structure by a motorized vehicle has created multiple points of access across the front of Mr. Schneider's property, giving the impression of a parking lot, which is also not in keeping with the residential neighborhood. The applicant represented that based on a conversation with the manufacturer of the fabric structure, it is not acceptable to them to reduce the size of the canvas structure, and doing so would reduce or negate the warranty. The applicant also admitted that reducing the size of the fabric structure would be unsightly. Number 4, the hardship of the applicant herein, taking down the 960 square foot garage was self-created. Mr. Schneider explained how he put up the structure and added the concrete floor. This is the essence of self-created hardship and should not be rewarded by the granting of this variance. Therefore, as a result of the foregoing, the applicant's application for the requested area variance is hereby denied. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the owner applicant. Resolution seconded by a zoning board member.
All right, before we get a second, I just would like to make one amendment to this. On first paragraph on the top of page 2, where we speak to the photographs obtained by town officials show a poured concrete floor and welding equipment setup, I'd also like to include the fact that there's clearly a work table in there. All right, so I think that would be appropriate because that shows that it is in fact being used for other purposes than storing motorized vehicles. All right, so if we have it say, show a poured concrete floor, comma, work table, and welding equipment.
I thought you said in work table.
That's what I said.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Work table and welding.
Oh, and the welding, okay, I see where you're at.
Okay? Any other, well, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any other
No comment.
discussion?
No comment by myself.
Okay. Votes as follows, Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And myself, aye. If you don't mind passing that down to Pam, thank you. All right, item number 2, an adjourned public hearing, Appeal 3569 Homeland Towers. Homeland Towers LLC is requesting a special permit to locate a wireless telecommunications facility consisting of a 150-foot tall monopole and associated equipment on a property located at 23 Dartantra Drive, Hopewell Junction, New York. Property is in the ownership of Tufaro. Pursuant to Section 194-80 of the zoning ordinance, the applicant is also requesting a 40-foot height variance for the proposed monopole, as well as a wetland watercourse disturbance permit. Do I have a motion to reconvene the public hearing?
So moved.
Second? Okay, for the purpose of the record, Aziz and Tara are recused, which leaves 3 of us left to vote, and except that we're going to bring, where'd Mary go? Thank you. We're going to bring Mary back up. So, just for the purpose of reconvening the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye. Yeah.
Okay. So Mary Seminar is our alternate member, and she has been assigned to cover on this specific topic. Now, the board has received, let me just bring everyone up to date, the board has received a request from the applicant that in essence says he needs more time to pull the information together and is requesting that we adjourn the public hearing to April. Thank you. So there was a request received on February 25th requesting the adjournment. We have notified our radio frequency expert so that he was not here tonight. But in the meantime, we do have an obligation to reconvene the public hearing, hear anything new at this point, hear anything from the public, and then the expectation is that we will adjourn it to meet the applicant's request. However, I'm going to state for the record, this application has been hanging out here now for quite a considerable amount of time. In the normal course of business, all of the additional information we would be requesting would be done during the review process. If you'll remember, you pushed for us to open the public hearing to begin the public comment period. I don't think it's fair or considerate to the neighbors to have them keep coming out month after month after month, particularly to hear that there's nothing new, and the information that they've been promised and that we've been promised since October really isn't here yet. So I'm just putting that on the record. You guys have the floor, and let's see where we go from here.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Mirando. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Cuddy & Fader, and I'm here on behalf of Homeland Towers. As you indicated, we did submit a letter by Mr. Giaffri on February 25th. If I could just back up, and I won't take a lot of time. I know we want to move forward quickly. But in response to the comment that we've been waiting a response since October, let me first say this, that as we indicate in our letter, new information was presented at the public hearing on February 12th. To respond to that, we have 2 weeks to meet the filing deadline. That information that was new to us at that meeting, again, requires field work in the winter to go out and handle it. So to get that back in 2 weeks is very difficult, and it wasn't possible.
And I'm going to stop you right there, because we specifically asked, was March appropriate? And we were told by your applicant, yes. So
and the good faith effort was made to do that. And let me also back up by saying, information has been provided at meetings. We like to submit, as it's appropriate for this board to move forward in an appropriate manner, submit a comprehensive single submission. But when we receive information at a meeting and then we have to go back and make sure that we don't submit in piecemeal fashion, it creates issues. So that's part of the reason that happened. Also, we haven't been just hanging out there as far as time goes. We've been working diligently to respond to all the information, which, as you know, is a lot. That being said, also at that February meeting, we came back with the hearing the comments about a shorter tower and the idea that we want to try to reduce the visibility from the height of the tower. We went back and looked at another site that was previously indicated as unavailable. We took another shot based upon some information we received to see if there'd be any reception to that site, again, significantly reducing the height of the tower in the area. So that was a valiant effort on our client's part, in my opinion, to try to, again, present that to this board. It was emphatically rejected, so we're moving on accordingly. We fully expect to respond in writing, as I'm indicating now, in advance of the April meeting the submission deadline, so that all parties involved have an opportunity to review that information, in advance of the next meeting. Not so that we get to the meeting and additional information is submitted that we then have to respond to again. So that's our goal. That's what we're working towards. So I do hear your comments, and I understand them. I hope you hear ours as well.
We do, but I'm going to put it on the record again. If we don't have a complete submission for the April meeting, I don't know that this board will entertain another adjournment. All right, I believe that we've heard enough comment. I believe we've asked enough questions that have not gotten response that, I think there might be enough information here to make a determination, or, unless there truly is something totally new that we just haven't
Yes,
been
we will
brought
be.
up to speed on.
Yes, we will have a substantial submission for the board. That being said, just to go back to your prior comment about prior to the public hearing being set, and our encouragement, this was the point, because we knew the neighbors had concerns and we wanted to be able to respond to them. So to now, I think we all understood that there'd be information provided to us they needed to respond to at that point. So we do believe we were complete for purposes of setting the public hearing, but then new information arises as the public brings out the information at the hearings. So that, not totally agreement with that position. So
I think we still have Mr. Graves' letter of October 2nd that still had issues that weren't addressed.
And our RF team is working on those and has provided information to Mr. Grafe as far as just discussions go to try to respond accordingly. We're working very diligently to do that.
Good. Okay, thank you. So is there anything else tonight as part of your submission tonight?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything else tonight as part of your discussion?
No, again, we
tonight?
renew our request for an adjournment to the April meeting, and again,
Okay. Any questions from board members? No. Okay, is there anyone who wishes to speak for or
And
against?
Our expert will be here next meeting.
He is on hold as of right now, so yes.
Once we determine when the meeting will be.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Randy Braun. I'm an attorney. I'm also a resident of Little Switzerland. I just wanted to reference the letter that I had submitted to the board in opposition to the requested adjournment, my letter dated February 27th. There are a couple of things, just for the record, I wanted to point out to the board. I understand that the likelihood of an adjournment being granted is high, and you, Madam Chairwoman, have stated a lot of the things that I was going to say. However, I just wanted to go back and review briefly, just so that the record is clear, not only for the board, but for the public, as to the events that have occurred. Mr. Grafe's letter is October of 2012. Homeland Towers had all of October and all of November to respond to Mr. Grafe's comments. At the December meeting, which they again did not provide responses to his comments, it was suggested to us, after Mr. Janes had made his presentation, that we would do some additional simulation work, have him do that in the manner in which he suggested, in order to deal with what we think is a fatally flawed visual resource evaluation from Homeland Towers. Homeland Towers was here at the December meeting. They knew that we were going to do this. And in fact, the meeting for January was adjourned because everybody felt that there would need to be enough time for a response and what have you. So we came to February. Mr. Janes made his presentation. No one from IVI, which is the visual resource expert for Homeland Towers, was present at the December meeting at the February meeting to deal with Mr. James's subsequent presentation, or at least to even comment on it or otherwise address the board. Instead, what we got was a sales pitch from the president of Homeland Towers telling us how wonderful his company is and how terrific they have been in trying to help the community, with which I think the vast majority of us disagree. And we got a situation where they started to deal with relocating the tower possibly adjacent to the water tower. There was a letter from Mr. Cloral, or I believe it was Mr. Wood. I'm not sure if it was you, Mr. Cloral, but from the town attorney in any event, back to them stating that unless there was a request from the community, don't even bother addressing that. So they knew about that before they came into the February meeting. Instead of dealing with responses to Mr. Grafe's comments, they proceeded with this futile effort about the water tower, and it just made no sense. I think it's disrespectful to the board, it's disrespectful to the community for these people to continue to now have 5 months later and still we don't have responses to Mr. Grafe's comments. And I just think that, if we're going to adjourn this, what this board needs to do, and I think you've already said it, is to make sure that they present an appropriate submission addressing what needs to be addressed, at least from their perspective. Because otherwise, you're right, there's just no sense in continuing. We could go back and forth like a ping pong game, and it makes no sense. So, in any event, I just wanted to get that clear so that both the board and the public have a feel for the history. This was not some valiant effort last month to address the water tower issue. This was essentially an effort, in my opinion, to buy time and to just, blow, smoke and cloud the issues that are before this board. So in any event, if I do oppose the adjournment, but if one is granted, I would hope that the board would insist that they present a submission as directed. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we ask you to sign in? Anybody else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn to April? Oh, Anthony, yes.
May I make a request?
Yep.
Thank you. I'm just hearing now about a letter that was submitted by one of the neighbors, Mr. Braun. Is there a copy available to the applicant that we can
Oh,
provide?
the February 27th letter?
Yes, because,
May I just say something?
Yeah.
All of this is in public file. We, as a community, take it upon ourselves to check the public file on a regular basis.
You're right.
To ensure that we're up to speed. So far, and this is, I think, the second or third time I've heard this, Homeland Towers doesn't seem to check the public file. All they need to do is do that, and they wouldn't have to ask for copies of documents all the time. I don't have a problem giving them a copy. If I had it, I would give it to them. But I think this is just something they should be aware of as a matter of course.
Okay.
rather than interrupting that interruption, I figured I would wait till he's finished.
Thank you. I don't have an extra copy of it here, but I'm sure Pam will get it to you tomorrow.
And just to respond to that, as far as an applicant, we expect that if information is provided to the board that's being reviewed in advance of a meeting, we would hope that we would be notified of a copy. We do not need to foil every document submitted in response to our application as an applicant. There are due process issues with respect to that. So I do disagree with that characterization. Nonetheless, I'll reach out to the town and get a copy of that letter, as well as any other information that's been submitted at this point.
Really?
One last thing. One last thing. It's not a due process issue, okay? The bottom line is that
All right,
it's available.
Attorney to attorney.
Right. It's available, and they should know better. Thank you.
Thank you. So noted. Do I have a motion to adjourn to April 9th?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you. All right, Mary, we're going to ask you to step down, and if somebody can find Aziz and
Oh, please.
Tara.
This application?
Hide the candy on it.
She put it this morning just for you.
Hopefully there's nothing I really want. I did have time to eat dinner before I
Pam.
came over.
There's nothing he wants.
Okay.
I
He was
did eat,
concerned that I was going to let you have too much sugar.
I did have time to eat dinner. so-
No, actually, well, no, I can scan you. I can email. I've got a scanner, so I can do this. Okay. Thanks, you too. Huh?
You have your scan?
No. No. No.
Was that a check form or something?
The, when we got the new copiers, it had the capability.
So does our copy.
I'm impressed
What?
with you. No.
I had time to eat dinner first. Usually I don't sneak that in. This is all getting recorded and done live.
All right, nope, let's go.
Talk about not eating candy.
Item number 3, Appeal 3615. Thank you, it'll close. Hopewell Filling Station, Michael Gillespie, PE, representing Hopewell Filling Station, Route 82-376. Hopewell Junction is requesting a 19-foot rear line variance for a proposed 2,374 square foot commercial building, a 9-foot rear line landscape buffer variance, as well as an 8% impervious coverage variance pursuant to the Schedule of Bulk Regulations, Schedule 194-116B1 and Section 194-116B2 respectively. Do I have a motion to reconvene the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Okay, again, we did open this public hearing at the last meeting. We did have some general discussion before that to understand what was going on. This application is also before the planning board under a coordinated review. We did not close the public hearing at last time because we were hoping to get some guidance from New York State DOT about a potential additional access to the property. In essence, the applicant is asking for the current commercial space to be able to be moved back to allow better flow within the limited site that he has. And by doing so requires the rear line variance but some of the existing variances, we're just addressing the existing conditions on the site. So if you want to take it from here.
And you mentioned the additional access, but we have the letter from DOT?
Well, that's true, thank you. Since our last meeting, we did get the correspondence from New York State DOT indicating that additional access is not likely.
They took a look at both options, and they preferred not providing the additional access, which went over like a lead balloon with the planning board. So what we're doing and what's happening is that, I guess it really wasn't an adjournment. It was just it was on last week for the purposes of a secret determination, because we haven't really, we got a determination from the DOT, but the way it was left, I think the planning board is going to reach out directly to see if there's any ability to adjust that position, for lack of another term. The long story short, we don't have that issue worked out. So they couldn't make a secret determination. We thought we'd have that here so you could move on it. We don't have it, so we have to.
All right, when are you adjourned to at the planning board?
I believe it's next week. Yeah, it's on for next week for the adjournment.
But my understanding is there's nothing at this point that really holds this board up from making our determination. All right, based on the variances, because whether the additional access exists or not
Doesn't play into
really,
any of the variance issues.
Right.
So nothing more that's going to occur at the planning board level is going to affect the ZBA application?
Wouldn't the timing of the seeker?
No, this is, it's a coordinated review because of agencies, but there's nothing here that binds, or, when we came in with this, there is a variance for impervious surfaces.
Right.
Which we anticipated, it's minuscule, but it is above and beyond what's required, assuming that we were gonna get that access from the DOT, so that was covered. So, that being
Do you have
said,
findings, or do you have a neg deck from the planning board?
we do not.
Well, you wouldn't have gotten a neg deck at this point, so do you have findings? And so without findings, can this board?
That's why Mr. Gillespie, as a seasoned veteran, knows that when we have two applications parallel with coordinated review, we try to go as fast as the slowest one, because that's got to be resolved, because you don't want to get up front and we close the planning board, then identify a further issue where they have to open up a public hearing again. So we try to do that. And at the point, are you kind of finished the planning board process, you feel? Mr. Wood reported you were at the verge of a neg deck.
I think we're right there with pending this issue, related to DOT.
And so you don't think that anything you do further with the planning board is going to affect your ZBA application?
Not with what we've submitted, no.
Yeah, I don't believe that DOT issue has any bearing on any of the variances.
But what happens?
I don't think we can make a decision, though. I think we can just close a public hearing.
We do have a problem. The planning board identifies a further variance, then the ZBA is already closed.
That's
ZBA
what I
has to
was
open up their
gonna
public hearing
Yeah.
process.
Because if they do allow the access, then we have another variance or not?
No.
The impervious,
I think he's.
Because we
at the end of the
covered that,
okay,
the
Looks like-
imperviousness, assuming that the access would go in.
okay.
So if we don't get it, if we get
We're
a
still-
variant,
Then you
right.
have more than you need.
we're in a, right, exactly.
Correct. And the thing is that, I don't know if this issue will be resolved, because the DOT has already very clearly said that if they were to allow the third access, that part of the adjacent bank property, which would be traversed, the frontage portion. And so that, again, you have to get the bank's approval or the property owner's approval, and so that is gonna be another issue. So it's very highly unlikely that a neighboring business is going to allow, access
Right.
over their property. And then, of course, the DOT has also said that they will allow part of their property to be used for the purposes of landscaping or to improve internal circulation. So they've already made some compromises there. But again, so there are several issues that need to be resolved.
Okay, so the question would be, can we close but not act, right? John?
Yeah, but if you think there was something that may cause.
Well, for us to act, we'd have to have a seeker determination in
Agree.
place.
So why don't we adjourn it one last time, see if the
Yeah,
planning
that's what I
board
think.
finishes up in an abundance of caution.
Again, to be clear, whether we get the access or we don't get the access,
Right.
it's really, my
Doesn't-
client whatever happens. We just want to avoid the delay, which is kind of happening. But he knows he's into it for another month.
Right.
As to whether you close it
But your important
and then act,
application.
or you adjourn and you act, there really has
The
been no.
application that's rowing the boat here is your planning board application.
Right, and there's been really no public controversy related to this, so I'm not overly concerned about closing it
Have
either.
them finish up
so.
with the planning board, and then we'll finish up.
Okay. Any other questions from board members before I ask for public input?
I'm good.
No? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak for or against the Hopewell Filling Station application for a various number of appeals? Of a various number of variances? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn to April 9th?
So moved.
Just to be on the safe side. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll see you
Thank you.
next month.
You got it, thank you.
Thank you for setting that up. Just so you know it's appreciated. Item number 4, a public hearing, Appeal 3618 Meyer, William C. Meyer, 4 Spring Meadow Lane, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 45-foot rear line variance for a proposed 11-foot by 16-foot garden shed pursuant to Section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, when last we were here, we had a pretty extensive discussion about your request.
Okay.
In essence, you have, even though you have a fairly large, clear backyard, you do have underground issues, you know, your septic and other issues underground that would be, prohibit your ability to some extent from moving this garage in, or the garden shed. I think the biggest discussion item that we had was, does it really need to be in the area that you were proposing it to be, just because, in essence, you're not going to see it, but it does impact
Yeah.
visually your neighbor, even though I understand right now it is a Christmas tree farm, and it's, you know, there are a number of trees there of varying height. It appears that you brought us some more pictures, so we
Yes.
appreciate that. So, all right, so go ahead.
Okay, basically, this picture here is the backyard. Let me just see here. And the area, this is one pine tree, and there's one over here, is basically, I'm trying to duck it behind those 2 pine trees. And this is the other pine tree, and again, it would be right in this area here. And right over here is East Meadow, or the East Hook Road. That's just another view which does show the 2 pine trees. And that basically shows the lawn area.
And just, you showed before East Hook Road, and one of the things you're trying to keep open is the view across East Hook, right?
Yeah.
For your neighbors. Just that bear mentioning.
I do
in that
have
context.
some other pictures from East Hook, and I have them from Spring Meadow, which I didn't have the last time. So.
Okay.
We're going to be here a while.
This one here is basically from Spring Meadow. I'm standing on Spring Meadow, looking back. That's my house, and basically that's the one tree, and that's the other tree, trying to duck it right in there.
So their view from Spring Meadow is your backyard.
Yeah. Yes.
Which neighbor's view are you trying to maintain? Which direction?
Behind where you're
well,
taking the picture.
From
If you're
Anybody
facing
that-
his house, it's to the right on
Spring Meadow.
Spring Meadow.
It's actually behind you from where
Yeah,
you're
it's
taking
behind me.
this picture.
It'd be right in here. But there's a neighbor back here, and there's also a neighbor on, across East Hook. And I have the 2 neighbors, which are actually 4 neighbors going up Spring Meadow. This one here is taken from East Hook Road. This actually is one of the barns that belong to the Wright farm. That's one, you can just see right there is the one picture, that's my deck. You can't see my house. On this one, that's the neighbor's house, and that's another neighbor's house. I'm trying to duck it right in here. And I do have an email, which I did supply, from one of the neighbors that is also requesting that I do duck it back so they can actually look down and see the Wright's farm and so forth. Next one, please.
While we're on that point, because this is a public hearing, I would like to read into the record your neighbor's
Okay, sure.
email, okay? This is dated March 8th, from Carol and Stephen Bud received your letter our letter from the town regarding your shed permit request. We have no issues or concerns with the location you are requesting to place a shed. Steve and I appreciate your consideration in placing the shed back and out of view from our yard. By placing it back, it allows us to keep our unobstructed view of Wright's Farms, trees, and gardens. And they live at 10 Spring Meadow.
And I do have another one from the people who live at 8 Spring Meadow, too.
Oh, okay.
That was submitted also. This one here, again, is from East Hook Road. Again, the area is right in here.
You want the next one?
Yeah.
That's it, sorry. That's it.
All right, next one, please. This is basically, if I was standing inside the shed, looking towards, it would be south. This is the Exmouth Farm. It's hard to tell with these lights on, but the house is right back on in here. And I had the next picture, basically on the other side. This is the same tree, so it would be spanning this area here, and this is the home back here.
And so what is the address of that home?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
It's
What's the name of the home?
Mr. Davies on East Hook Road.
Okay.
Next one, please. This is not the exact shed, but be very similar to that with different doors and different shutters that I'm planning.
And this color matches your home?
Yeah, I'm going to try to match the
Or you're
siding
gonna- or
to
you-
the home.
Oh, okay, or are you going to put something that might more closely match the trees?
Would be basically to match the siding on my house, which is very close to this model here. Except I'm not going to have those type doors and shutters. It'd probably be white, which would match the house. Next one, please. That's just a side view of the type of structure.
Are you going to have the doors facing your house?
They'd be facing, yes, out towards Spring Meadow. That's just another view of it. That's just an interior view. I mean, this basically is my property, and that little blue dot would be the shed where it would be placed.
And so again, you've now put on here, it looks like you've put the fields for your septic?
Well, that was on the
Okay.
stuff that I submitted last time. This here basically is the current septic field. Over here, there's a buried propane tank.
A
And this
buried
right here
propane
is
tank?
the expansion area for the septic system. Next,
I
please.
don't see why not, but I've never heard of that before.
That's just
What's
a
the pro-
copy of the survey without.
What is the
field.
propane tank for?
My heating and
Heating
hot
and
water
everything?
and everything, and
Okay.
dryer. Everyone in that development has a buried 500
So that's a
gallon.
large propane tank.
Yeah.
Right, and they don't, I know, we tried burying it, and we were told we couldn't.
What's the difference between propane and fuel oil?
Yeah,
Right,
big difference,
yes.
No, right.
because of the
That's same
leakage and stuff.
impact. Yeah, they don't want the tanks buried for fuel oil.
Tanks have to go in the basement of the garage.
No, we tried burying a propane tank.
Propane tank and they wouldn't let you?
And we were told we couldn't.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's 7 of them up there.
well, again, that was, when was
Just
that done?
curious.
That was a few
Yeah,
years
when-
ago?
Pardon?
How long ago was that done?
Within the last 5 years.
The last 5 years?
I've seen that in newer developments.
We tried doing it 3 years ago, so.
Really?
Yep. Okay.
Who told you, the fuel
It's
company?
Amy. They made us take it out. Yep.
Excellent. Pardon?
We
All right,
probably
well,
I don't know
have-
what else, other
We probably
questions?
have it, yeah.
Pardon?
We probably have enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is kind of hard to
Google
see.
Earth.
This is an aerial view which shows the, maybe we can turn the lights down just a little bit? I don't know what-
Over there, just Yeah, you turn one of the switches down. One right next to the screen is usually the best. Turn it to the other one probably. There we go.
It's better.
This is, my house right here. These are the two trees. I'm trying to duck it right in here. This is East Hook Road right here. This is Spring Meadow Lane. This is the Xmas Tree Farm. This right here is the house that's in the back on the south side. And like I say, I'm trying to duck it right in here. So, any view coming this way, it's not blocked. This way, it's, it's behind these trees.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions from board members?
I'm good.
No questions?
No? Is there anyone here to speak for or against the appeal from William Meyer, 4 Spring Meadow Lane, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 45-foot rear line variance for a proposed 11-foot by 16-foot garden shed? Come on up. Please, but you can speak first and then sign in, it's fine.
I can give you these.
And roll to make it.
Your name, please?
Kenneth Davy, and I own the property directly behind where the proposed shed is, and it's 174 East Hook Road. Actually, I came here tonight just kind of out of curiosity, wondering about the shed that was being built, and thank God I did come, because I see from the map that he has shown you that it appears that the shed is he's proposing to build that shed on my property. So I think that this will give you an explanation as to my problem and his problem as far as this shed is concerned.
Okay,
So you're saying there's a boundary line dispute, basically what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, as far as the dispute is concerned, we are convinced and we have finalized where we know the boundary line to be. Frank Hughes, 40 years ago, set this up and pounded in the stakes. And after a long process, several years, our title company came to the conclusion that our line, the 1973 line, that's when it was originally staked out. Many of the stakes are still there. That is in fact the line, and the overlap that was created by the developer, that our line actually, we have superior title over their particular development. This is. The board is, I was here before the board a number of years ago when another shed was being built, and the board was made aware that there was a problem, an ongoing problem. So,
this same applicant?
no, this would be a different applicant,
Oh,
but that turned out to be, everything turned out to be okay. That was at the
Okay.
extreme end. I own 4 properties along East Hook Road.
Okay. So what you're telling us is that those trees where he was going to tuck the shed in between is actually your property?
Well, those trees, no, the trees that he mentioned that he was going to tuck it in,
Right,
those are his trees.
Okay.
But there's not a lot of space between those trees and my property. How far is the shed supposed to be from the property line?
well, it's supposed to be 50 feet, but he's requesting a 45-foot sideline, a rear line variance. He's suggesting that he'd like to have it only 5 feet from the rear line.
Which rear line is he referring to?
It would be, I think it would be.
Because he showed his,
I think it's this corner.
but he showed, in other words, he showed the map plan that their surveyors wrote up, which our surveyors have
Disputed.
disputed, exactly.
I understand that, but you're asking me, and I think it would be this corner is what we're talking about.
So,
So, and you're saying that boundary dispute's more than 5 feet, so it'd be on your property.
This is where they can.
Yes,
So he's saying 5 feet from there. This is 8, what is he gonna put if it's 5 feet from here, it would be on our property.
because there's an 8-foot discrepancy, is that what you're saying? I can't read that figure.
There is. Back corner.
Mr. Davy, have you ever had a discussion with Mr. Meyer
Let's let him
concerning
finish, and then we'll give you an
the
opportunity.
discrepancy?
8.39.
Off and on, yes. He was, I guess I don't know what the seller told him. All I know, and I'm not a surveyor, and I'm not a lawyer, all I do is abide by what
Yeah, but we're
I'm
wondering if you've
advised.
ever talked, if the two of you have ever compared surveys, if you've ever, asserted a claim with the title company?
Well, the first real problem I had with Mr. Myers was when he put a fence up on our property.
What happened to that fence?
I put up a posted fence after that.
Well, he put a fence up, and you said it was on your property.
Yes.
Was that fence taken down, or is that fence?
No,
still
but it
there?
will be taken down.
So the fence that's there.
I guess that's what we're trying to get to. What's being done to clarify this boundary problem?
We clarified our boundary problem.
Well, no, not until you agree that where the property line is the problem gone.
Well,
You say your boundary, based on evidence that you have, is at X, and they're saying, well, this we bought to Y, and that's on opposite sides from each other. Until that's resolved by either a judge's decision or the two of you agreeing where the property line's gonna be.
Or boundary line agreement, right?
Yeah, boundary line agreement, then it's not resolved.
well, I've went through this for 5 years with the developer, and they couldn't resolve it.
Was the developer Mid-Hudson Holding LLC?
Yes.
All right, let's just stop the discussion for 1 second, because I need to ask some questions. Mr. Meyer, your survey that you've provided to us, I don't see the surveyor's name on here. Do you know who you, do you know the date and the surveyor? Do we have it in our file, or do we just have this, Pam?
It should be in your file.
Oh, here.
Oh, okay, so Mr. Oswald did your survey. What date?
December 3rd, 2010.
This one says, well, I have, April 22nd, 2010.
April or December? We're looking at a survey dated April 22, 2010.
But a final survey, December
Has
3rd,
been- And then it
2010.
looks like, then it looks like it's quote- the final survey.
Okay, yeah, final.
So both dates are recited on the map.
Okay.
The initial date and then the final survey.
Thank you. And the survey that you're basing your information on, or the determination that you just submitted to us, is Chicago Title,
Chicago Title, Beatty and
is
Watson.
dated when?
It was, it would be April 2010.
So what you're saying a Beatty and Watson 2010 survey, which is not the same as the Bob Oswald survey,
Correct.
indicates the location of the Davy property lines established in 1973 are consistent. So, I don't know how we compare these, John, apples to
What
apples.
they really should be doing is having a discussion, of the regular path there, and the two, they both have, very fine professionals. The two professionals should sit down and can resolve it.
That was attempted. That was attempted about back in 2010.
Well, they were
And
done.
I believe my understanding is that 6 surveyors signed off on our particular survey. And they could not convince the Oswald people that, as far as the survey was concerned.
Okay.
One of the problems that existed was some of the starting points were destroyed. Some of the monuments were destroyed. So they had to take readings off of the side of Roger Wright's farm, off the
Okay.
corner of it. That's how they did it. That was their backup, but it wasn't quite as exact as they would have had if some of the memorials were not removed by who, I don't know who, but had been any form of construction, whatever it was, but there were some significant locust posts that were used. This is what my explanation.
All right.
Explanation was given to me.
The line aside, can we speak to, because you've said the trees that he's looking to tuck this into are in fact, on his property. Do you have an objection with the location of the proposed shed?
Not particularly.
Okay. But you
And-
began your comments by saying you think it's on your property. Do you
Well,
think?
I do,
He put discrepancy, so he's 5 feet off his line, he's 3 feet into Mr. Davies.
But he said that the trees are not on his property.
yeah, but it depends on exactly where he puts, ask him where he's gonna put where is he gonna put the shed?
Because he's putting it behind the trees. He's putting the shed behind the trees.
Okay, got it. So, but again, the shed itself, aside from the fact we'll resolve the issue
I have
of whose
no
property
problem
on.
I have no problem with the shed, it
Even
looks
if it-
very nice, and, and we want to do this in a civil way. I just don't want it placed.
On your property.
On my property.
Okay.
You could ask him right now, is it going to be on Mr.
I will,
Davis?
but you have the floor. So we're going to respect that. All right, if you have not already, can I ask you to sign in? And
Yes.
we'll have Mr. Meyer respond now, so just so that you're in the area in case you need to respond as well.
There was a fence put up, and the reason I put a fence up is because Mr. Davy planted trees on my property. So I put a fence up, and I basically put that up. I had the surveyor come back, all right, to verify my survey, which you have copies of. And I also went to the county and got a certified map of the subdivision.
Okay. And when was this subdivision done? I'm going to assume after 1973. Right? Because this seems to be, oh yeah, Spring Meadow. I remember Spring Meadow. Okay,
November 24, 2004.
yeah, okay.
And this piece
Has my signature.
right here is my property,
All right,
basically.
we got to lift it up over the microphones
Okay,
without
sorry.
hitting the microphones if we can, that's all. Because it makes
I
a
would
loud
expect
noise.
that your survey matches the map because they're drawn from each other.
That's correct. That's,
And of course,
All right,
Mr.
but
Davies'
but-
argument is that his subdivision predates that.
Right.
And his subdivision and his individual survey match each other. That's where we are at.
And you have title insurance on your property?
yes. And I did
With any
contact-
exceptions?
Not from where.
Okay.
I did contact both surveyors
Okay,
and said there is an issue, and can they get together and resolve it? And I got yes to them
okay.
on that.
But the two surveyors you talked to were Oswald and Beatty Watson.
That's correct. And I did come in and spoke to the building department on any measurement, where would we measure from? And they told me it would be the survey of record that's filed with the county, which matches mine.
It's the final plat, not a survey, it's the final plat.
Okay, I mean, the bottom line is, we can't allow you to put a structure on property that's not yours, so this issue.
Or that's in dispute.
Yeah, this issue, either it has to get moved.
Unfortunately, I think that Mr. Davy has had issues with the whole development.
Well, that's what it
starting
sounds
with
like,
the
if the
town,
maps have
and
been
then
filed
you know,
incorrectly.
went, basically on to the developer, he had issues with the developer, and now it's basically is passed on to the residents of
Right.
Yeah, because all along, the boundary line's in dispute.
Yeah.
Whoever
Right.
owns the property, he's disputing that the property line's correct.
According to my builder at closing, that there was issues and that was all resolved, and apparently it's not. And, apparently my builder said the lawyers were out there and met with Mr. Davy, and supposedly he just wouldn't accept it.
Okay, but this board can't,
Yeah, he doesn't have
we're not
to
gonna
accept
resolve
it.
this
We
dispute.
can't resolve a
so-
property line dispute.
So unfortunately,
I'm not
it's,
asking to resolve
Yeah.
that.
but it's gonna hold up here, because you're asking for it to be so close to that property line. We're not gonna be able to act on it
Suppose-
until we know for a fact that
if
you're not on this
Yeah.
property.
Suppose we say he can put he gets a 45-foot variance.
From
And
where?
he puts the shed up. And then Mr. Davies says that's on my property. And the court then makes a decision, because you guys end up in litigation, you guys can't do your boundary line agreement, and the court says Mr. Davies is correct. Doesn't he not then have to move his shed 5 feet from the property line pursuant
Right.
to our decision?
We
So
can't,
can we make our decision?
we really can't perpetrate keep the error going. And that,
Well, I mean, I'm just,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, suppose we didn't know about it. Suppose Mr. Davy didn't come out. And he said, later on, after the shed's put up, I mean, he would have to move it if the court said, this is your boundary line, and that wouldn't affect our decision, so. I understand what council's
so
saying.
we have a,
Somehow, you guys do have to come to some sort of resolution on
and
it.
typically the way people have good faith disputes about boundary lines, and they strike a deal called a boundary line agreement. And it really is something that doesn't, is a little give by each
Yeah,
party, but nothing terrible.
Split the difference, maybe.
I can't make that decision for the development.
I agree.
That's just when you're back on.
Again,
We're agreeing with you, but on the other hand, we can't,
We don't know what the line is to.
John, isn't there a way of bringing to a judge if they can't come to an agreement, and the judge will look at everything that's
Oh, sure,
submitted
if
and
someone,
he'll make
if
a
someone, yeah,
decision?
if they bring in a case in equity, the Supreme Court judge will make a decision on the boundary line agreement.
To get a
And typically, the judge will
declaratory
defer to the professionals to get together and say, professionals, give me a report. And if they say, yeah, we believe there's a good faith dispute of 5 feet, then you might say, well, why don't you 2.5 feet, 2.5 feet? Yeah, so as Jim stated, unfortunately, it results in, litigation that's expensive and takes a lot of time when it should be done, by good professionals in a conference room.
right.
Again, if you want, I mean, you have another option, you can move it by either 8-foot boundary line dispute, and you want to move 5 more feet. So if you move it, you amend your application to 13 feet from the proposed boundary, then we can make a decision because we have enough buffer to work with.
See, I don't think that works.
Just
Because
still
if the
not on
boundary line
property.
changes,
If
he
it-
has
if
to
it
move the
changes,
shed.
it's gotta-
No, I mean, I'm
And then
saying,
that's even closer to his house.
no, what I'm saying is, yeah,
I don't think it solves his problem.
My question is this. Since we have the most recent dated survey, and it's the survey of record for the town, filed with the county, and we closed on our house on January 17th of 2011, how did we get clear title to our house if there was still a property line
That's why you
dispute?
buy title.
And actually. in
We
your
have title
in
insurance.
Your title insurance, your title insurance relied on a certified survey, so
Yes.
actually it involves the surveyors involved also. They certify that where the lines are. and
But
that
we
can
have
be
the
correct
most,
and that might
we
not
have
be
the most
correct.
recent dated.
Yeah, but
I know that,
that
but
doesn't
the
make
last
it.
survey.
that doesn't make it right.
Last survey doesn't win every contest.
All right, Mr. Davy, you're providing your take on your survey. Do you have anything from Chicago Title, from, I
Well,
mean,
his survey
we're relying on your memo here.
Right.
But his survey shows the overlap that he has in his materials.
The survey on the second page is taken as a small portion of the Beatty and Watson survey. The third page is the file map that's referred to. And
File map
as
4207.
far as Chicago Title is concerned, we are ready to proceed if it has to go to some type of judgment.
Okay, this is the filed map for,
This file map looks like 4207 filed in 1973.
Have you notified your title company?
Yes.
Seems to be a title company should force this issue to come to a head. They're both.
By the way, our title company was in constant contact with the lawyers for Mid-Hudson. So they're well aware of the issue, and, the statement.
Who was your
that it
title company?
Or resolved when they bought the house.
Who was your title company, Mr. Meyer?
New Jersey.
New
They're out of
Jersey.
business and now somebody else.
It was bought out by, I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't know, we have to check. But we were given title insurance at the date of the closing.
all right, we're not going to be able to act on this application, so we can adjourn it. I'm not sure how long, I'm not sure 1 month is going to be appropriate. You guys have to give us some direction as to when you think this issue is going to be resolved, whether you can resolve it between parties, or there's going to be,
I'm gonna have to get the builder involved. 'Cause, basically
that's fine. You have to do what you have to
They
do.
told
We
me that
agree.
they had issues, but it was all resolved. They met out there with Mr. Davy, with the lawyers, and everything was all resolved.
I think the only person that's gonna step up for you is the title company. Builder,
Well,
he sold it to you, I mean,
Right.
that, I think, was the end of his involvement.
they did say it was clear title at the closing.
And you got title insurance, the company.
Right, so your title
guaranteeing that.
company is your,
And they also relied on
But
a
that's why
certified
you have
survey.
title insurance. If you wouldn't, nobody would buy title insurance if There is no possibility of something like this happening.
Since Mr. Davies stated that we put up a fence and it will be coming down, this board should be aware that Mr. Davy also put up a fence.
Yeah, he's told, he said
We
that.
have not touched that, so I would respect that you not touch our fence and we won't touch yours until this is determined. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's
I'm just
sometimes-
asking.
Yeah, okay, folks,
Yeah,
that's.
No, I'm just asking.
You-
I would expect that.
But again, you're directing your comments to this board, not to anybody in the audience,
That's not
that's all.
something we have
Okay?
jurisdiction over, and that may be what brings this to a head, and that would be unfortunate. And the council and I are both sort of suggesting that, you know, maybe if both title companies are forced to talk to each other, it's much better to go that way than, you know, maybe the litigation costs will be picked up by the title company, I don't know.
All right, how do you wish for us to proceed? Our options are, we can delay it, adjourn the public hearing until next month or the month after. We can delay it to a date uncertain, although I would not like to do that beyond
I think we
probably
should
3 or
give
4
it-
months.
We should give it to a fixed date so that you can.
Yeah, I agree.
So the world knows when the next time is on.
Or you can honestly withdraw your application,
I'd
that's,
like to keep it in, try to get this resolved.
Okay.
I think 1 month is probably too short,
Mhm.
based on, you know, some research that's got to
Would
be
you like
done.
to skip over the April meeting to maybe the May meeting? And maybe the two of you can talk to your title companies and they can talk to the respective surveyors?
I mean,
Attempt to reach.
again, I did try to get the surveyors together, try to get them to resolve it, and, you know, I got yes to that, and then they couldn't do anything.
okay. But again, we have other appeals we need to hear tonight, so
Okay.
we need to wrap this one up.
So I move that this be adjourned to our
May 14th.
meeting.
May
Right.
14th.
I have a motion, is there a second?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, we'll see you in May, folks. Good luck resolving this.
Both sides.
Okay, item number 5 is a review. We are now finished our public hearings. Appeal 3617 Dalton, Stephen Dalton, 89 Lake Walton Road, Wappingers Falls, is requesting a 25-foot sideline variance for an existing 96-foot square foot shed, as well as a variance to allow the shed to remain in front of the rear line of the dwelling pursuant to section 194-107B2.
Evening.
Okay, good evening.
I came a little more prepared.
Okay.
I brought some pictures.
Thank you.
Okay?
Come on up, bring him up. I mean, I did go by your property again, and
Okay.
I just don't see it, I'm telling you honestly.
Okay. Well, those pictures, they represent, behind the house, I slope. I think you could
Maybe that's
probably
what you
tell
were
from the pictures.
No, you know what I saw? There's a wood shed in the back.
Yeah, whose property?
That one actually is getting ripped out.
Yeah, it looks like
That
it
was
was
an old
out
chicken
there.
coop.
Yeah, but I thought I saw
Well, that's
something.
actually
Yeah,
not
but-
even,
That's on your property.
it's on my property, but I'm not in.
And there's wood.
Because we asked you if there was anything else on your property, you kept saying no.
Yeah.
Oh, I have the
And I
barn.
keep driving by there, and I keep seeing that wooden structure back there.
Yeah, that's actually getting dilapidated. That's getting ripped down. That's,
Well, because that's probably in violation, we couldn't grant that.
it is.
Well, we can't grant you this until it's gone.
Okay.
And if that can go there, why can't this shed go
All
there?
right, hold on, are these for our file?
You can have those.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask you to go back to the
Okay.
microphone, just so that your voice is collected on
Okay.
the microphone there. All right, go ahead, Jim, you can continue your,
Okay, if I can raise my voice again that loud. My question was, one, that coop or whatever it was is probably so close to the property line, it's in violation. So that would either have to be removed or variance requested for that before we could grant this one. And the question being, if that can go back there without any problem, why can't this shed go?
Oh, well, that was only because when I'm in my garage, like I said, that's like my son's shed. I can keep an eye on him. That's why that was there.
if you see the picture that's, shows the inside, you can see a child's chair and a little work desk.
Just so I can keep an eye, that's why I chose that. It's just too far, it was too far back.
Yeah, but how old is your son? I mean,
6.
he's not going to be,
Well, you'd be surprised.
I'm always surprised.
you know.
I'm gonna say,
No,
been
I
there,
just-
done that,
I just
okay?
wanna keep my eye on
because I have a son who's now grown up, and
Yeah.
you hit a point where they just don't want to be next
Well-
to dad anymore, okay? So,
Until
I mean,
that time comes.
Which could mean that maybe we look at this for a limited time, but again.
Well, that could be.
My biggest issue is you have the ability to move it. It has been moved before, so we know this structure is movable.
Oh, yeah.
I just, I don't know, I just have an issue with it. Especially, I guess my biggest issue is the fact that the doors are facing forward, and they're not even facing toward the garage, where I can understand then that you're keeping an eye on your son. When they're facing forward, and if you're in the garage, you're not seeing him.
Well, it wouldn't
So it kind
look
of-
right if it's long, because it's 8 by 10, so it's kind of, it's longer than it is wide.
I know, but
I
it's
just
got
think it
white
would look
trim on it.
horrible from the
That's-
road. I don't want people to,
Let me tell you, it's very noticeable as it is, particularly with the dog sitting on top of it, okay?
I can take him down if you like.
I mean, I'm not saying you need to, honestly.
I could rip
I'm just
him down.
saying, with the white trim, it's not blending in with the trees, with the,
I could
you know,
paint it
with
brown.
what's there. So it's quite obvious. Before I even knew this was an application, you know, my kid's school is on Lake Walton Road, so I've driven by there and said, oh, look at the dog on the shed. All right, so it is a very noticeable
Snoopy.
feature that you have there. I don't
Well,
know.
I could paint it. And I could tear the dog down.
But why can't it, I'm just not getting, why can't it get moved back?
Or get put at the edge of the driveway.
Excuse me?
Or get put at the edge of the driveway along the rear of the house. Like, why can't it be put here?
Oh, I can,
So we're in and
Behind
back.
the rear line of the house.
Why can't
when
we
you
put
don't
it
need
here, at the back of the driveway? So we're in
oh,
and
that's,
we're here.
that's my garden. That's,
And the
yeah,
garden can go here.
garden, no, really. Well,
Right behind
what if I-
But right along the driveway back here
To the
is,
edge of to the back of the driveway.
Right.
I mean,
That's what we're
That's what we're
suggesting.
saying.
I'm not gonna,
go to the
Here,
back of the
show us
driveway.
on here where you're suggesting. I mean, that's what we're getting at. It
That's-
needs to
yeah.
be
what
behind
if
the
I
driveway.
move, what if I move it, wherever it is, but right here?
Back here.
Can I do that? I'm still not gonna meet my sideline
Yeah, it's still gonna be in front of the
Yeah.
rear, in essence, what he's saying is he would probably move it back, I don't
Being
know,
it's on the
6
side
or
of the
10
house,
feet.
What if I put it, the front of the shed on the line of the back of the house?
If you put it behind the rear line, your house is at an angle. So you put it behind your driveway, you're all set.
Yeah,
Yep.
if he puts it behind this line, you don't even need us.
Well,
I mean,
you
it does dip, I gotta bring fill in, I gotta bring,
Oh,
I gotta,
sorry, that's the
I gotta
size
bring
of it.
stuff in, I gotta jack it up. Because what happens, when you get to the back of the driveway, it dips. It dips, and that's where I collect my water. That's where I collect a lot of water.
Or put it on, put fill in.
I mean, I'd have to jack it, yeah, I mean, I
Put it
do
on
whatever I
block.
gotta do.
I mean, you buy 10 block and you,
No, I can do that. I just don't wanna go, 150 feet. It's, it's not that
No,
easy.
we're not suggesting that. We're just suggesting that it gets behind the rear
If I
line of
moved
the
it,
house.
if I moved it, I think it would be, what,
15
10,
feet
about
back.
10 feet.
Yeah.
Would that be acceptable?
yes.
Back Back and and in. in.
It still meets a side yard.
I'm still gonna need the side variance.
Right, it's still, but so that brings
In
the other
terms of the rear
question.
line, it's acceptable.
Yeah, I'm still gonna need it, because I'm still not meeting those requirements.
And,
Right
and
now, you're requesting 2 variances. Putting it in front of the rear line, we can't justify at all. I mean, it just can't be justified because you have all that big yard.
Right.
Your argument is, I want to watch my son.
No, that's not my only
Alongside
argument.
the house, no, we've heard that. When it's alongside the house, with the doors open in front, you can't even see your son. You move
Right.
behind the driveway, you can actually keep a better eye on your son.
right.
So-
Okay.
And when
That
he
takes
outgrows
care
it,
of
it
that
becomes a
argument.
more practical shed, for purposes.
So,
So I guess, let's go back to, I'm gonna ask you to step up again. So we're now talking about moving it back. You're gonna put it behind this line, the rear line of the house. But now we're to, why can't it go over a little bit?
how much can it go over?
How much can you shift it over? Because wouldn't you want it at the, more in line with the top of the driveway? I don't know what this is. What is this? There's a little blip on your survey here.
I don't know what that is either,
Wait,
to be honest with you.
Somebody 71,
sneezed on it.
That might be a number?
71, is that 71
I'm
foot?
not sure what that is.
I don't know what that is.
Can I see this?
Yeah, this is what you provided for.
I don't know
Is
what
it a
that
measure on
is.
it?
Can anybody else read it?
It looks like a 47,
Yeah,
That's where I thought
47,
the
47.
but I don't know what that means.
That's a,
Oh, maybe it's
Distance.
47 from your house.
4'7"?
It's 40, it's probably 47 feet from the corner of your house to your sideline.
But it looks like
Okay.
that was
All
handwritten.
right, so that's what that would be,
It
okay.
was handwritten and not by the surveyor. I don't know, why not?
Which they violate the education law.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be
Can't write on a
making,
survey.
you're not supposed to be making changes to a professional survey,
I didn't do that.
okay?
Oh, no, I didn't do that.
Someone in their pencil did.
Who would have,
Oh, I don't know, I would never do that.
all right,
no, it looks like a professional because it has plus minus.
No, but
I'm not. All right,
Plus minus.
yeah, but the date on this is April 10th, 1983.
Right.
I'm not sure you've owned this house since 1983, right? Yeah, so I have a feeling somebody was written on this survey. When you,
wasn't me.
didn't we have a discussion about when
That's
you
not professional.
closed on this house, did you have a new survey taken or no?
No, the neighbors next to me had a fence put in,
Okay,
and they did. They had a survey come in, and actually, the
but
one
your bank
property-
didn't require a survey? Your bank and your title company?
No.
yeah, they probably took an old survey and did a survey inspection.
Okay.
They just do it, so yeah.
They did it, the house
Yeah, the
next to me
existing
did a
one, they just
survey,
go out
and
and
then
look at
they
it,
did
make
like
sure
the
it's
four
okay.
surrounding houses,
Okay,
and they did like intersecting lines.
okay.
Yeah,
That-
but
that's
in your
how
case,
they
if you
did
didn't do a survey, they took an
I
old
was there when
survey.
I watched them.
All right, so let's go back to, can we move it over at all? Because again, you're asking for
go back.
20, you're asking for a 25-foot variance of the required 30 feet.
I can go back, but if,
It's a
Oh, you're
25-foot
asking,
requirement.
you're asking for it right on the property line? Oh, okay, sorry, I was
Oh, no.
thinking it was in a little bit.
Well, it's
Yeah.
25-foot sideline.
Okay, so why do we really need to understand, why does it have to be on the property line?
if I come over, it'll be like in the middle of my driveway,
But
not
what-
on the driveway.
But we're
But we're
talking
moving it
about,
back.
no, we're not, actually, no, I'm gonna disagree with you. I'm sorry, come back up
No,
here.
no,
Where you are now, it's not on it's on the side of the driveway. So if you go back and move it over.
no, I can go back.
Right, but, so that's why we're just asking, why
How
can't it,
far over?
25 feet.
25 feet?
Oh, no, it won't, it'll put me dead center in my driveway.
No, because you're going back behind it.
No, when you pull down my driveway.
But you're not gonna be on the
If
driveway.
you see the pictures, no, I'm not on the driveway, but it'll be like in the center, like when you drive down the driveway, it'll be right there.
That's right, so many
Okay.
people do that, so they can pull their stuff in and out right on the
And
driveway.
it's
It'll look
paved.
hideous.
It's easy,
I don't know.
It'll look hideous.
I don't know why that looks hideous.
right there.
I'm not getting why you think
It would
that's,
look terrible.
Why? So
Trying to
many people
find-
put it on their driveway.
here, right, okay, here's probably the best picture. Why would it look so hideous if you came up and put it, if it was right here?
Because it just, I guess you gotta, I don't know, you gotta see it, it just.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't,
Off to the side, I like
it
it.
doesn't match your house. It's very visible from Lake Walton,
Oh, yeah.
as you're driving by, it's very visible, okay?
Already.
So why not have it moved back where it's, you have potential cars to be parked in front of it or something that hides it a little
The
bit?
back's not the problem. It's bringing it over to the left.
Yeah, but it doesn't belong on your property, on your
Definitely not going on your
neighbor's
property.
property
So
line.
if I bring it back, and maybe instead of shifting it over 25 feet, can I request a variance to go over?
Of a lesser
maybe-
degree.
Maybe 5 feet?
I mean, you already have 10 feet between the edge of your driveway and the shed. Why can't it be? There's no way you're getting it on the property line.
He's saying it's right on the line.
I know, it's not gonna go on the property line. I mean, like I said, there's 10 feet, 12 feet between the driveway and the shed now. It would still be to the side. I don't get it. I don't get it.
When you put something in line, you generally want a maintenance easement also. When someone tries to build something on line, oftentimes zoning boards ask the applicant to obtain an easement from the neighbor.
If you're asking for a 25-foot variance,
no
you
reason.
are on the line.
5 foot off, right?
No, that means you're on the line.
Yeah.
So ZBAs, when they face that
Well, wait a
situation.
minute, if he doesn't even know if he's on the line or
Right.
5 feet off, he's the one that submitted this to us, so he should know where his line is.
And what's drawn on here does not appear, what's drawn on here does not appear to be on the line.
But the application says 25 feet.
Yeah.
Correct.
I thought I was 5 foot off the line.
And if you look at this, it's,
Maybe you thought you needed 30, I
Going
don't know, I thought maybe you needed 30.
30-foot assumption,
I thought
not
we
a
needed,
25?
needed 32. I
Yeah.
don't know why.
No, you need, it's all
I don't know what I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
maybe.
but that's okay. Not the first time. All right, let's,
I don't know, it's gonna be very hard. for
I
you
don't
to
think
buy any variance.
you're gonna get support for putting a shed on a property line. So you gotta move it over somehow. You gotta move it over some degree.
Okay.
And you can think about it for next meeting, you don't have to do it tonight. You can-
Yeah, really, you gotta look at it in terms of where, can you take some stakes or markers, put something in the ground and I'll come over one day and, yes. And I'll actually stop there as opposed to just driving by. All right?
I drive
Can we
by
do
every
that?
day,
Yeah.
just so you
I
know,
mean, it's-
twice a day, to be honest.
Put those
yeah.
stakes up high so I
Yeah,
can see them.
so we could see, yeah. I don't want to stop, I just want to keep going. Yeah.
I don't want you to take the dog down if it's, it adds character to it. I'm not complaining about it.
Okay.
Let's
All right, I'll stake it
get
out.
something with some
Okay.
flags or
better
something
visual.
so that, again, we can,
Okay.
without having to bother you, we can see where you have, and what makes sense, all right? And,
Okay.
but do you know where your sideline is?
I do.
You know where your property line is?
I do, because on that, I have all the stakes.
Okay,
I have them lined up, I can marker it out.
Stakes,
Okay.
stakes placed by a surveyor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
and not moved by your son.
Actually, it goes to
I've heard that one before. I have heard that one before, I kid you not.
Save that for
Right?
Sunday.
How many times have we been told kids move the stakes? I swear.
Yeah.
Norma?
Neighbors do.
This stake isn't on the property line, it's on the
Probably
neighbor's
what happened to
property.
the prior case.
That's-
So
Yeah, but
it's-
this is a rough drawing, someone's,
No, I
no, hold it,
know.
maybe that is.
No, I think
All right.
That's the
the metal
surveyors.
stake.
Let's take one more month with this so we get this right,
That dark-
okay?
Okay, so-
Let's have you go look at your property and figure out really, really what makes the most sense. How close can you move it to your house?
This is phony.
Think very honestly, because you gotta get at least 3 of us to support your request, and I don't think you have
You're not there yet, that's.
any hands just yet, okay? So, put up
sure
some
you
kind
have
of
one.
flags, and, I'll stop over in a couple weeks,
Okay, all right.
all right?
And I drive by there every day too.
But let me ask you, why, if I moved it, if I kept it behind, if I moved it back,
Right?
okay, what would be the problem of keeping it where it is? Why?
Because
Why?
your neighbor, keep in mind, the code sets forth zoning that every household in this town has to abide by. It's really our job to say no, unless there's a really convincing case, there's a real hardship, why you need your shed to be in a location other than what the town code says.
I gotcha.
Our obligation is to say no. We're here to listen and to look at each appeal on its own, on the merits of each
Okay.
appeal, and the reason for the hardship, why it can't be where the town code says it's supposed to be. Because in essence, we're protecting the neighbors' rights as well, not just yours. We have a responsibility to look at yours.
If I move
But we've
it
gotta
back,
protect your
if I move
neighbors.
it back and I move it over, you're gonna see it just as much as you're gonna see it now.
That's not the
No,
only
you
issue.
will.
But that's not the only issue. One
Okay.
is, the distance between the property lines is very important, and where people can put stuff. For example, if it's right on the property line, and you decide you're gonna replace the roof, are you gonna pick the shed up, move it over
Right.
25 feet, and then change the roof?
How are you gonna paint the other side of it?
How are you gonna paint
You
that
gotta go
side?
on the neighbor's property to
That's the
paint
maintenance
it.
You don't have a right to
You
do
can't
that.
do that.
Plus,
what
if
we-
your son decides he wants to make a birdhouse in it and he's hammering.
Okay, I got
it's
you.
Right.
off of the neighbor's property a little bit, they don't have to hear the hammer all the time.
Right.
Okay,
So that's where
All
the
right.
buffer.
okay, so let me find out exactly what I'm, all right. All right,
makes
I
the
think,
most
I'm
sense.
new at this, so just bear with me, I'm sorry.
That's fine, that's why
You know,
we're
it's I
saying,
never owned a house, so
put a
I'm
couple
trying
flags
to,
up, let us see, and
Okay.
then we'll be back.
okay,
And we'll see you next month.
all right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Who got this?
that was just a review.
Yes, that was just a review. All right, item number 6, Appeal 3620. I don't want to say this name wrong, but Minkowitz? Yes, thank you. All right, Frank Minkowitz, 64 Gold Road, Stormville, is requesting a 24-foot front line variance and a 450 square foot variance for a proposed 1,200 square foot detached garage pursuant to section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance. Now, you are here for a review. I do have to tell you that according to the survey that you submitted with your application, you're showing that you have a pool on your property.
Yes.
Okay? The building department is not showing that they have a record of any permit or certificate of compliance being issued for this pool. Do you know how long the pool has been there?
When did we buy the house? 84?
So, and it was there when you bought the house?
Yes.
Do you know the date of your survey?
Of this recent survey?
Yeah, of the survey that you submitted with your application.
About a month ago? Month and a half ago?
Since March of '85, you needed a permit. If they bought the house in '84, they could have predated a permit.
No, they needed a permit for a pool since 1972.
All right, when you bought your house, did you have all of the paperwork related to the pool at that time? Did you get I don't know whether they gave CFOs or what it was, certificate of compliance, I'm not sure, for a pool. Do you know whether there was any issue about closing because of the pool?
No, we didn't have any issue at all. In fact, we did an alteration on the rear deck at a later point, and that wasn't a problem either.
And you got a permit to do that alteration?
Yeah.
All right, Mary, so he's been before the building department for an alteration on the deck. So somebody's been, in the building department's been out to that property.
Okay, but when the building inspector goes and sees a pool, he doesn't come back and say, oh, do you have a permit for
Right.
that?
No, I
He
understand.
probably should. Did you have a title search done? Because I didn't even see that a title search was done on this property, in which case it would have come up. When you bought the property, did you have a title search?
We bought an assumable mortgage. We took over an assumable mortgage. We didn't have a survey or anything. and the
Yeah, it wouldn't have
bank
been any
just-
mortgage.
We
so
just assumed the mortgage.
Then they didn't have a title search done.
That would be why nobody found any exception on, or issues whether the pool was in compliance. All right,
I mean, I could have Jackie do a more thorough search, but from my looking at it,
Do you have an understanding when the house was built, sir?
thank you, that's a good question.
74, 73 in the house, 74 in the garage.
So if it was built in
73.
73 and you needed a permit since 72, then you have a problem. So it definitely doesn't predate zoning, the pool.
Right.
That sort of gets us to the head of the problem, though. And obviously, it's a big concern because with electricity and stuff, if it's not done properly, it's a big danger.
Well,
We're
but
gonna
it's
have
hard
to-
to say that if it's been there since the
The
70s.
electricity for
Well, that's
what?
what I'm saying. I mean, but that's the concern as to why we need that done. Yeah.
Right,
The electricity for,
the pool, the pumps.
we had
and-
electrical inspector 2 years ago.
Oh, okay,
Because
for
we
what
put it-
purpose?
We put it underground and grounded the pool all the way around.
Okay, so would you have had the electrical inspector's compliance certificate for that?
we didn't get one.
Not necessarily.
Technically, he shouldn't have done the work without a permit. Generally, they have a permit to attach the work to. So even if he thought he was only doing electrical work, he should have come and gotten an electrical permit. Or he should have asked for the permit number for the pool.
Right.
The inspector came and looked, from the town came and looked at it
We don't
with the
do
electrician.
We don't do electrical inspections. That's
That's a New York
third-party inspector.
State.
Board of Fire Underwriters.
Thank
That's any permit.
Well, who would have come to look at
Okay,
it?
why
It's
don't,
an
why don't we do a
independent
review
person.
here, and then in the meantime, Mary's, we're gonna have
Ask
to,
Jackie to do a more thorough search, but.
we're gonna have you're gonna have to resolve this issue. Before we can go to a public hearing, we're gonna have to be clear that you don't have any outstanding violations or structures that don't belong on the property. All right, but let's review what you're submitting for us now.
Okay.
All right, so your request is for a 1,200 square foot garage. Do you know what the footprint of your building, of your house itself is?
We have the plan here.
It would be helpful if we somehow asked for that information on the application, because like even Schneider's, we didn't have that information. Oh, okay. We can actually share, we don't, there's not really enough room on here for. All right, so can you explain to us why the garage, why you proposed the garage for the location that you're proposing it for?
Well, I'm retiring this summer,
Okay,
and I have a bunch of classic cars, and I'd like to be able to repair the cars in the garage. I have space under the house in the basement, but I'd prefer not to work on them under the house.
okay. So I can understand your need for a garage. Why does it need to be in this location?
The ground is a lot more level. We can make it look very similar to the house, siding and everything. I think it'd be more appealing sitting alongside the house on an angle.
Right, and you're also calling this an attached?
It's got a breezeway?
Yeah, because there's going to be a breezeway
So it's gonna be attached.
from one garage to the
All
other.
right, how long is this breezeway?
I think it's on the plans, but
I don't see a measurement.
maybe 15
It's
feet.
15 feet.
It's on an angle.
And
10
how
10 to
are you
15 feet.
defining what structure is keeping it connected to the house?
Roof.
A roof with, you're gonna have posts, you're gonna have, is that allowed?
Generally, for it to be attached, they like it to be a heated area, you know, so you can get from one to the other without having to go out to the others. That's what they say, if it's gonna, you know,
So,
if
in
you're
other
gonna
words,
put an accessory unit in it, it would have to be attached by a heated area. So I'd have to ask the attorney, I guess, if.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa, for the record, John is recused for
Then
this
I can ask
application.
Tom tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, we're
I
gonna
don't-
have to ask the other
I think
town
it has to be a
attorney.
heated area. I don't think it's not just
It has to be a what?
a heated area.
John represented the
area?
family on some
Yeah, or at least
transactions.
it
He's
will-
recused on this one.
Like a door in our existing garage, just so we could get into another door in the new garage, just, so I thought it would look nicer if it was like a little covered.
But I
Yeah,
don't think that
but the
necessarily
15
makes it-
feet is a little, like, if you said 5 feet?
It could be 3 feet, it just needs.
Oh.
Actually, I think it's 6 feet, to tell you the truth.
It's
Not, it's.
because we're asking to build a garage on an angle to the house. It's, the front of that breezeway is going to be narrower than the back.
I have a hard time with.
But I don't know if that would be considered attached, just
See,
be
we
attached to the roof.
we need measurements on here. I'm not understanding the distance here.
Do we have measurements on
When I went to get the forms,
No.
I asked for a
All I
detached
know
garage.
is
And then I
distances
explained
from
that we can use
sides.
a breezeway. And the building inspector that was downstairs said, then it becomes an addition.
What, it becomes an
I've
addition,
been
what?
discussing this with Scott and Tom, and they've been saying it needs to be a heated area, not just a roof.
Okay.
So,
I mean, again, if it's an addition, if it's attached to the house,
Well, it's attached to one side of the
then you don't
existing
even, you don't
garage.
need our approval related to it being a detached garage and the size of it. So it eliminates one variance if it is attached. But
if it's attached, you have to look at, well, no, it still would need a front yard.
it still needs the front yard because it's still
Yeah.
in, but, well, no, if it's attached.
But
They
it still
still
doesn't
need
need
it.
a setback.
You can't go
You
too
don't need the
close.
variance for it being in front of the house, but you need the setback.
front line?
Right,
The front line.
right. No, okay, I meant in front of the rear line of the
Exactly.
house. That one's, that one we're okay with. Okay.
And this is 2 stories? This is a
One and a half.
this is a 2-story?
It's a
I'm
one
sorry?
story.
You have a second floor? It's
No, it's one floor.
No, for the garage you're asking.
for the garage?
Yeah.
The proposed garage, you're showing dormers upstairs, but that's just
That
decorative?
was on the original plans, but I think they're gonna be taken off.
Okay,
It's-
because there's even window on the side of the side elevation is showing a window that shows a potential second floor.
The win-
Are you
the
going to have a
window-
lift
the
or
window
something
still
in
might
there?
exist, just for light.
Okay,
The price of it came in higher than we expected.
okay,
So we're beginning to eliminate certain things.
okay.
And part of that was storage upstairs. It would have been a third storage upstairs, but that's history, and so are the dormers.
So how many cars are you going to be able to store in here or work on at any given time?
With the height and the use of what they call a backyard buddy, where you can put one car on top of another.
Right,
I would be able to work on 3 cars at once, or store up to 5 if I was only working on 1 car.
and you have no business associated with, okay, just want to be sure.
So you're saying store up to 5 if you're working on 1, so a total of 6 cars?
I have 5 cars in the basement now.
Okay, but if you have the buddies, technically you could put 6 cars in here, is that?
Yeah, but I wouldn't have a need for 6 cars because I'd want one on the ground. At least one on the ground I would be working on.
All right, we need some measurements on here, all right? Can we get a measurement from, let's make a couple measurements here. From the corner of the house to the corner of the garage, both corners?
60.
No, you're two, it's cata-cornered, so they're gonna, you gotta give me 2 different numbers, whatever they are,
Is
okay?
that not on the original survey? Is
No.
that not on the survey?
It's not on the big plan that you've given us, and it's not on the survey that you submitted. So no, unfortunately, what you give us is the side yard, the front yard, the other side yard. That's what you give us. So you give us some good information, but I just don't have the dimensions on the structure itself or the connection to your house. I mean, unfortunately, the way you've got it designed, it becomes, and the fact that it's in front of your house, it becomes a focal point for anybody driving on your street.
Exactly, that's why we're gonna match it identical to the house.
But
That's why the garage
it begs, again, as you heard us just say, our job is to say no unless you can show that there's some hardship that it really needs to be in this location rather than meeting the requirements of the code. So you need to explain to us, why can't it go further back?
My property slopes down the back, and the expense of doing it would be a lot higher. To turn the garage sideways, even with the existing garages,
Right?
would look
Worse?
ridiculous. We felt that doing on the angle like that with the driveway, that it would be more appealing from either direction, driving by.
It actually, but it creates more of a mass of a structure doing it.
You could keep it at somewhat of an angle
Right.
and still put it 50 feet back,
And still put it
50 feet back from your property line probably.
not much of an angle now.
Well,
Then it would almost look like a mistake in my mind.
yeah, but well, the problem is if you came in on new construction, this lot was empty and you wanted to put something on this property, you wouldn't get it.
Right.
You just wouldn't get it. So,
I mean,
and this
can
has
you-
been one of my contentions sitting on the board is, if somebody comes in on new construction, nothing there, and they ask for something like that, they're not going to get it, then why does it happen if somebody has this room? Just because now they want to put something additional on the property, should they get it?
All right, you show us on the property where your well is. Can you tell us where your septic is, your septic field? Does that,
Behind the house to the left,
behind, on the other side of the pool?
yes, past the pool,
That's
down,
the, no, that's the
down
well.
the
I
hill
want to know where the
past the
septic is.
pool.
Where the fields are, where the tank is, just so, again, because again, if that prohibits your ability to put it back, then that's a
Yeah,
hardship.
yeah.
That, understand that you're not going to move your septic system.
Right.
All right, but if that's not an issue, then what's the grade of the backyard? You say it drops off. What, any sense of,
Of degrees?
yeah,
You have any idea what it would be?
The survey doesn't show us that.
yeah, there's no topo lines on here, so.
3 to 4 feet every 12 feet. 3 to 4 feet down, every 10 or 12 feet in.
Okay.
So
it is, yeah, it's a grade.
Yeah, that's one of the things, putting it where it was is that it didn't.
Could be as 20, if it's 1 on 3, I mean,
Does it drop it
yeah, 1
off
on
to
3
the
or 1 on
side
4,
too?
then it could be
I mean, the
25%.
expense of the driveway and everything would,
Have you talked with any of your neighbors about this?
yeah, my neighbors on both sides and across the street don't have a problem with it.
All right, within your neighborhood, I don't even know what street you're on, oh, Gold Road. Within your neighborhood, are there other properties that have things either coming forward or, in their side yards like this? Is it within the keeping of the character of the neighborhood? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, well, our neighborhood it's an older development. We've got houses that are set way back so far off the road, you have to look down the hill to see them. Some of them are up close to the road, like my house. They're all, it's sort of a mixed bag.
And so the 1,200 square feet is because you want the room to be able to keep
To be
the
able to
5
open the
cars.
doors up and to be able to work on the cars, put them together.
I don't know.
I don't see putting it that close to the property line.
I don't see putting that close to the road.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah, that's
he's
why-
fine on the side,
Right.
but I don't see any reason why they can't comply with the 50-foot setback.
Do we have the dimensions of this garage?
Is it 30 by 40?
Of the garage, 30 by 40.
30 by 40?
Yes.
Thank you.
They don't angle it. They need to front that a lot better, it'd be a lot less of a.
I'm agreeing with you that if it's not angled, it actually, you probably wouldn't need that front yard setback.
I understand.
You'd still need, well, except is it attached or it's not attached in terms of being in front of the
But it makes
rear line?
Aesthetically, you got
No,
5,
Garages can be in the side yard,
Yeah,
so for the front line, you said?
yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
the,
But the house is at an angle, so if you went even at a slight angle, it depends how you're gonna draw the thing, you'd at least be behind the closest corner, maybe, I don't know. I can't see, a 24-foot variance or 22-foot variance, whatever we're looking for here.
if you angled it less than you have it angled, you're still gonna meet your side yard requirement, and then it goes back a little bit. So have you looked at having it not straight, but even just less of an angle?
750 or 60.
Come here, let me show you what
no,
I'm
I
talking about.
understand what you're telling me. Just aesthetically, I think it's going to look,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, I
Because then it gives you more distance this way, but if this is 26 feet, I mean, I'm not drawing it to scale here, so
26.1 and
it's
25 is
gonna
fine.
end up being, it's more of it's more closer to the side yard by being at that angle. It would be less if we shifted it. I don't know, I'm not
So
there.
you want this back to 50 feet then?
Yeah, at a minimum.
Yes.
We're not understanding why it can't be back 50 feet.
What's back here? Is it sloped back here?
It's a slope.
Yeah, so
But that's why we're saying if you change the angle of it a little bit,
Yeah.
then you don't go necessarily
You
go
don't have
back
to
a
go
whole lot.
back, you just straighten it out, yeah, that's what I've been
Right.
saying all along.
now you said something about from the furthest point? So it's got to be back?
Yeah, I mean, your house corner is 60,
Making sure the point that's closest to the street, right, meets the 50 feet.
yeah, I mean, if you go back, so it's at least behind the 50-foot setback, at least I can swallow much easier if you're in front of the house, okay? Because your house is 61 feet, closest point. Well, it's hard to say closest, but I presume that's the closest point, because that's what the surveyor is supposed to do.
Right.
Although, your house and the property line might be parallel.
Yeah, it might be.
Doesn't look parallel to me, so it almost looks to me like the far corner might be a little bit closer.
From the road, it looks parallel.
But in any event, that's what I'm saying, bring it back behind the 50 feet. If you think you like the angle, is architecturally interesting, it makes it easier for me to say you can have a variance if you're behind the setback requirements. Okay? At least
Can we
we're-
ask you to
we're applying the
reconsider
law.
it?
Yes,
All right?
not a problem.
Okay, let's give you these plans back, because we only need one copy for the file. All right? Put them all on top here, and then this way he can have them back. All right, and let's see what your options are. Let's see if it's just, we can. I agree, but I think you understand where we're coming from. The fact that it's back another 22 feet actually doesn't make it appear as big as you might think it would be because it is further back. So,
And like I say, you can still have some of an angle, which may give you your architectural interest.
Right.
Maybe if you stake it out, what we're talking about, you can visualize it better.
all right.
You got a building permit for the pool. I mean, we weren't.
We're gonna ask you guys to, not necessarily to seek you, or,
Look at it closer.
okay.
So
So,
the title searches, so call the building department in a day or two and see what we come up with, and then, you know, you might have to apply for a building permit.
That would be fine. I mean, that's fine.
the important thing is while we're working on your site, let's just make sure everything's in compliance.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
All right, we're
no.
not looking to be difficult.
That's what
We're
we were
just,
talking about.
Yeah.
We were talking about title search. when
because
you-
honestly, when you go to sell your house one day, it might honestly be an issue for the next buyer who's not gonna assume your mortgage. They might have to be able to show that the pool has its proper C of O. Okay, that's all, so better resolve it now. Yeah, I believe it.
Norman, did you want him to bring pictures in to show the slope of the property also?
If you can show us your rear yard and show us the, how that, it slopes down, that, I think that would really be helpful for us to better understand it. We just, we get it, we have an aerial, but it just doesn't show it.
Yeah.
It doesn't do it justice in terms of understanding that. All right? We'll see you next month,
Okay, thank you.
April 9th, second Tuesday. All right. This next name, I am really afraid I'm going to.
You got over ours.
Let's just say it makes the Minkowitz look easy. All right, Appeal 3621, item number 7. Poznikov?
Yep.
All right.
Let's just say Dimitri, how's that?
I was saying, just use the first name.
Dmitry Poznikov.
Yep.
7 Loose Stripe Drive, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 2-foot variance for a proposed 6-foot fence to be located in his front yard pursuant to section 194-98 of the zoning ordinance. I'm just gonna tell you, I have an Italian maiden name of 10 letters that just always got massacred when I was growing up. So I'm very, very sensitive to pronouncing people's names right. All
Sorry,
right.
being late a little bit. I have a few pictures here if you want.
Okay, great, sure. So you're asking for a 2-foot height variance on a fence that's in your front yard?
Yeah.
The fence is there now, or you're asking?
No, I have 2 front yards because it's a corner lot.
Okay,
So I have a 4-foot fence on this quiet street behind the trees. That wouldn't be a problem. The reason I want the fence is because I have a number of
oh, I know
dogs.
where you are, okay.
And one of them already was hit by a car last fall.
Okay,
Actually, a year ago, last February. It's a big dog, so they'll jump a 4-foot fence if there is a deer there.
okay,
And this is pretty close to the deer path too.
okay. And you're on Route 376, so this is where actually we want something that's gonna look nice there, because
Well,
it's,
there's a lot of trees there also.
yeah, no, I understand, but
376 where?
it's pretty close to the,
Across from that restaurant, right
Yeah.
down from Arbor Ridge.
pretty close to the police station.
Okay.
As you're heading into town, it'll be on your right.
Well, now I think I got it.
So I put that's my wife holding the tickets.
Oh.
Yeah. So the property goes along 376, as you can see, and then it slopes in right around
Okay.
that big tree.
So the house, this house is
The
yours?
big house.
Okay.
The front, it's about as big as the one behind, the distance. is comparison.
And so the angle of the fence that you're looking for would run,
So I have the fence going here, I have the fence here,
okay,
on this side, you can see the white fence in the back. Right.
oh, okay.
And there is a 4-foot fence here.
the one which is closer. The other one, you can actually see one of the posts. Here, the white post. That's about here.
This is a further away.
I'm sorry, where are you trying to put the 6-foot fence again?
So the 4-foot fence goes here and here.
Mhm.
I want to put a 6-foot fence here. This is a easement here. And then along the wall, there is a stone wall. And I
Okay.
probably want to put, I have a garden here.
Okay.
So I would need to go only to the garden. And then I actually probably, this is
Okay.
pretty, the road is here, right? So this, the deer pass is at the bottom like this.
Okay.
And then there are squirrels, that's what we're going out to once you get here. And here I'll probably put either the fence, or it's a backyard, so I don't need,
Okay.
as long as I set it in, I don't need the
How
variance.
close are you to the turnaround area in Wildflower Hills?
The turnaround
Is that
area-
part of the reason that you're looking for the fence?
No,
No,
the
okay.
turnaround is about here,
Oh, okay.
pretty far.
So you
They're
have,
doing the
you have a lot of
construction,
trees
you barely
there.
see them, yeah. Well, that's where the deer pass. There is a berm here, it's high, and then there's a big deer.
Okay.
That's pretty much wild. Actually, I want to buy some. So if you can see the proposed fence, too, I would put this type of features.
They probably can't. so-
Did you say the fence,
Yeah.
the existing
Probably
fence is
can't,
4
so,
feet?
yeah.
I'm sorry?
Is the existing fence 4 feet?
Along this side, which is much less traveled, it's a 4 feet. There are no engines there.
And the reason that you're going with a 6-foot as opposed to a 4-foot is,
They'll just jump the 4-foot fence.
okay, but they'll jump the 4-foot fence here too, won't they?
Yeah, but there's less, because
much
it's
less
a
traffic.
roadway.
Oh, because of 376
There's
versus
less
the
travel-
drive?
Well, the trees, there are,
But-
I have trees here, so there are no, they.
No
they-
attraction to them.
There are no
Right.
attractions.
There's nothing to
There is a
chase,
house there.
yeah.
No,
Okay.
the squirrels go this way, because
Yeah.
this is the wetlands on the other side.
Right, yes.
And those are big dogs there. It's an 80-pound dog, so they'll jump the 6-foot fence if there is a beach here behind. That's what he did actually, that's why I have a number of those.
Okay.
There's a what behind it?
You didn't hear right.
I didn't hear that. I said, well,
No, that's what he did. I have a pen, I have a 6-foot.
that can cause
female
problems,
dog.
yeah.
Wow, we're having quite the discussions tonight.
What an evening.
That's how I.
I heard something else.
Nope, we're fine, let's move on. Okay,
What material were you looking for?
Sorry?
What
type
kind of fence?
That's from the picture.
is it gonna be a white fence, or is it gonna be, can the side facing 376 be more natural colored?
I can do it any color.
I
The
mean-
natural is the unpainted, it's a pressure treated. It's
Right.
actually nicely put together. Pressure treated. I can paint it any color. The reason to paint or to stain, like the other ones stain white, is just for it not to rot.
And I understand that, and I want you to maintain it. I'm just thinking if it's a natural color,
You could put a clear stain on it or
Right.
something like that, too.
it would just blend in so much nicer and keep the
But it's
the
all
look
wood.
I
on
can paint it in
376.
American flag colors.
No, that's the opposite of what we're looking for. We'd like it to be really, as least noticeable as
But
possible.
That's what, which one, this is, those are the pickets, which are.
Okay,
I
but
can-
it's
I
an
can
angle.
show
You keep saying that, I don't see a fence.
All right, so on your side, we don't, on your side of the fence, the inside of the fence, we don't care what color it is.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, it's,
No
but
one
the
will see it anyway.
the exterior,
Just a
I think
dog.
as long as it's a natural color, I think I have less objection to it.
So you just want to keep it the wood color with a clear stain?
I would
If
think.
you want to
so.
protect
Yes,
it,
no,
I'm
Terry?
just saying,
Yeah.
if you want to protect it, there are
Yeah.
natural color stains or
Right.
clear stain or something like that, seal it, yeah.
Put it on the variance, specific color, go into Ace and pick
Yeah.
up the color you like.
We don't need to go that
Color
far.
charge next time.
And there are trees in front of it, but that you can't see.
There are no trees
Yes.
really.
Well, there's a couple. It's like
Evergreen.
scrub more than anything else, you know?
It's yeah, it's more like bushes.
Yeah. It's
But
nothing
they're
to get
they're very
excited
thin.
about.
In the winter, in the summer, they're a little bit okay. I'm actually going to be planting the trees in a week probably. Probably I can either plant them staggered, but I cannot put the fence in between the two.
Right.
Right.
So I was going to put the trees on my side,
and I can put
Okay.
some shrubs on the other side, but I cannot let the shrubs grow too much because it's the easement. They'll, like, on the picture, there is one tree where they cut the.
It's probably better if, you
For the electrical,
just
you're
leave it
talking about,
natural.
yeah.
Just leave it natural. If you have a light-colored, some kind of wood-colored fence, it'll just look more blended in.
So like cedar-like color, like brownish? Or just leave it just pine?
The
like-
color of the fence, just put a
If you
clear
wanna protect it,
polyurethane
put a
on
clear
it.
Okay.
ceiling on it.
That's
Yeah, I can
fine.
do that.
Put a water seal and whatever you want to put on it. At least that's my recommendation, but I know how busy this street is. I know you must get, there's a lot of traffic on 376, no question.
It wasn't when I moved in.
Yeah. All right,
It's really not getting quieter, is
is this okay to put on for a public hearing for
it? I
April
have
9th?
no issue with that.
I'm good.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. All right, so see Pam, she'll give you the instructions for your public hearing,
Yep.
and then we'll see you back again next month.
I've done that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to
We're
adjourn.
keeping your pictures,
Motion
right?
to adjourn, yes. Can we make your pictures part of the file? Sure. Okay, good, thank you. I have a motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.